Welcome back to Trust the Process. My name is Dalton Smith, and I'm super excited. We're in one of my favorite buildings in Brevard County today, and we are going to be learning about Elaine Larsen. And today we're going to dive into the fast-paced world of jet drag racing. And Elaine is kind of the queen of this department. Elaine is a two-time world champion, renowned for her incredible skills and speed behind the wheel of these jet-powered dragsters. Off the track, she's a passionate advocate for STEM education. Through her work at Larsen Motorsports, she's helping to inspire a new generation in this field. And today we're going to learn about her journey, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. So without further ado, welcome, Elaine Larsen.
Well, I am so excited that you came to my house. Welcome to my house again. Welcome back, I should say.
Yeah, we are in your house here. Pull this just a little closer.
Yep.
We are here in Palm Bay, Florida.
Yep.
Inside of your pretty incredible warehouse with amazing rocket cars everywhere.
Yep. So we've been here now for about 10 years, and you welcomed us to Brevard when we first came here. You know, you shot a commercial with us and kind of helped us come into the Space Coast. But now we're planted here. We've got firm roots, and people kind of know that we're their race team, so I love it.
Yeah, I love that. And it is kind of crazy that it's almost been 10 years.
Yeah, I know.
And you're a huge advocate of the Space Coast.
Absolutely. I love where we live. I can't imagine not looking up and seeing rockets. I can't imagine not going out and eating dinner and seeing dolphins flip. I can't imagine not being in the heart of all of this technology that's right here. It fits us to a T. I mean, It's perfect.
And so anybody that doesn't know, this area in particular is a technology hub.
Yep.
And at least at one point, some of these neighboring engineering groups had more employees than the county did. Mm-hmm. So huge opportunity over here. And I know that funnels directly into what you do. Yep. And you're working with some of these students.
We sure are. So we work with students that go to Florida Institute of Technology, and they're like mechanical engineering, aerospace engineering, just any different business. You know, there's so many different areas that it kind of works. We even have some ocean engineers that come in here and work. And we're taking what they learn in the classroom and directly applying it to a project on my car.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
And don't you chop things up pretty raw in here?
Oh, yeah.
Aren't you guys like hand building your engines?
Nose to tail, we do everything on our car. So from the composites on the car, from the engines to the afterburners to, you know, we've actually digitally twinned. So we've taken my car, put it virtual in this program with Siemens NX, and then run analysis on it. So crash simulation to where, you know, hopefully we're building a better, faster, safer race car for not just me, but the people in the future, and giving the kids like a really cool resume builder.
For sure. And like you said, you're not just out here racing, you're actually, you know, changing the game, contributing into the safety factors. And I think it's a lot bigger of an operation here than people understand.
Yeah, but I like to be secret. So we pull the big bay doors down. It's like, mad scientists working, especially the husband, the Larsen, when he gets into his jet engines and he dives right into them. So we run General Electric J85s in our cars. So they're off from like F5s or T38s. So like what you would see Top Gun trainer pilots that are flying around.
Yeah.
I just like to fly on the ground.
That is so crazy to me. And if for anybody that has no idea what this looks like, go look at Elaine's history on YouTube, on her website. Some of these things, the Festival of Fire, we filmed with you. I had known Elaine. I was aware of what you did. Holy crap. Being in the middle of the fire was such an insane experience.
I see your eyebrows grew back.
Yeah,
they're fine.
Hey, I have donated a GoPro to the graveyard when we first filmed here. And I guess talking just about jet drag racing, can you share kind of how did you get into this?
So I was a little Mennonite girl growing up, so not quite Amish, but kind of like that. So we had cars, but we didn't have TVs and radios and things like that. So very farm kid, okay? So I met him. He was this boy driving a 32 Ford Deuce Coupe that's actually in the background. I looked over, he looked at me and said, sup? And so 16 and 17, we started dating, got married when we were 18 and 19 and started building a dream. But it was Larsen's dream. It wasn't my dream.
And how old are you now?
57.
So you look fantastic.
I know. Thank you. Jet cars.
Jet cars?
Yeah.
That's incredible. So you're talking the better part of what?
We've been married 38 years.
Going on 40 years of
together.
doing this. Together. And that's even cooler. I love the husband-wife duo.
Yep. So, he always had this wild, crazy, like, you can fly, you can work on engines, competition engines, racing, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't know, I don't know. And so he's like, well, find your dream. I've already found my dream. What do you want to do? So when we moved to Florida, he started taking me to the racetrack, and I actually went out to Orlando Speed World and saw race cars at Bithlow. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And I loved it. And he's like, well, let's get you a race car. I'm like, okay. So I got my first 75 Chevy Vega, had a big black Chevy in it, went down the track, and I'm like, heck yeah.
How old were you?
I was 25 at the time.
Okay.
So, yep. And didn't have a kid yet. Everything was good, and we were racing. And
Well, you were still young, but I feel like some people think that that's too late or something to start doing stuff.
100%. I didn't even start my jet racing journey till I was 35. So I raced 10 years just bracket racing and just,
Wow.
Going around to track. And then finally, I'm like, I want to go faster. Like,
so your professional career kind of
started
began in
at
your
35.
mid-30s.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep. And that's when I caught my next dream. And he's like, well, I know jet engines, racing. We're like peanut butter and jelly. Let's put, what I know up front in the back and what you know up front. So, a dragster with a jet engine, and let's go for it. I remember the first time he came home with a jet engine, I'm like, you are crazy. We put it on the car, and he's like, fire it up. And he goes, I don't know what this thing's going to do. By then we had a son. And he had him with a garden hose saying, if mom catches on fire, put her out.
Oh, my gosh.
And he's like, and how old's your daughter?
She just turned 1.
Okay, so my son was 5. So imagine putting a garden hose in her and saying, if mama catches on fire, make sure you put her out. Yeah. The kid just ran and hid.
So your child was born into the
racing.
rocket cars.
Yep, that's it. He's always known it, It was funny because his first nickname was Sparkplug, but then we said he's Igniter because of jets, but,
I love that.
But, so we just started going to the track, and I remember the first time I started the car and was going to go down the track and then light the burner. So these cars go 0 to 100 in a second, 0 to 280 in 5.5 seconds. And so
Wow.
it's like, prepare yourself to go 0 to 100 in 1 second. What does that feel like? You can sit here, and that's probably the biggest question that people ask me.
I was about to ask you, what does that feel like?
I think you're so focused on your job. Like, when you're shooting or when you're surfing or doing something, when you're in the middle of it, I don't think that you take the time to say, what does it feel like?
Yeah.
Because you're so, thinking about the process of what you have to do. I can tell you it puts you back in your seat. I can tell you better take a good grasp of air because you're not going to get anything. You're going to pull about 5 Gs when you launch. And so you're going to be pressing back into the seat. And so it's like, hang on. But I'm so laser focused. And then
the tunnel vision.
I don't allow myself to feel until the parachutes come out.
And I can get that just because when you have something that gives you that much adrenaline, that has the risk factor, and there's so many things you're checking off, you're doing your job first.
Yep.
And then when it's over, you're like, whoa.
Then it's like, woohoo, here we go. Let's do it again. Let's rev her around, boys. Let's turn her around and do her again. But I remember the first time I lit the burner, I was scared to death. And I'm like, whatever you do, don't screw up. Because we had invested at that point, I'm going to say $200,000 of our own money into this industry. And I'm like, just don't go into the wall. Don't do this. Don't do that. There was so many things going through my mind, and I'm just like, it just overwhelmed me. And so I lit the burner, and then I shut it right off. And that's when the husband got on the radio, and he said, Elaine, nobody really thought you could do this. Like, are you kidding? You're just Elaine Larsen. Who really thought you could drive a car like this? Why don't you just get out of the car? Why don't you let a man get in here and show you how it's done? And that's exactly what I needed, because let me tell you, Larsen couldn't be anything but that. I needed someone to slap me in the face, and I needed to get mad.
Yeah.
I needed to get mad. I needed to get my fists up, and I needed to say, like, who do you think you are? Because I can do this,
I like that, and that's important because I feel like people get challenged.
Yep.
And there's a lot of ways, but especially part of your fight is to put women on the forefront.
Heck yeah.
And I feel like when people get oppressed and challenged, it can be deterring, understandably.
Yep.
Or you can put it in the gas tank.
Yep. He just turned the radio off because he could hear me. I mean, I was just screaming. I'm going, who do you think? And I'm like, here. And he goes, fire it up. And we'd fired it up again, and off I went. And he goes, everyone knew you could do it. You're the only one who didn't think you could. Now you can do it.
One of my favorite quotes, it's you versus you. Make sure you win.
Absolutely.
And
Yep, that's a good
that's
one.
that's cool. Yeah, isn't that cool? It's I saw it on a piling in the Florida Keys,
Isn't
spray
it?
painted, and it must have been 10 years ago. It stuck with me. I really like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, it's important to remember. As me and JD had that conversation this morning about when you get up, you need to be cool with the world and be open minded and loving, but you got to look in that mirror and say, I'm the one.
Oh, that's it. At the end of the day, you know, I've got this new girl. Her name's Josette, and this girl is on fire. I met her at a racetrack. She's like, you know, I think I want to be a part of a motorsports team. I don't know how to make this a career. You know, what would you suggest? And I said, walk through the door. And she walked through the door. Now, it took her 4 or 5 times to walk through the door because she was nervous and she didn't know what it was going to be. Finally, she walked through the door, and now she is the vice president of race operations here at
Let's
Larsen
go.
Motorsports. She has driven the House of Color car for 3 years. She's been racing for 13 years. And so
How old is
she is almost 30. Knock, knock, knock. I say that. She's going to be 30
That's
and it just
epic.
like 30 days. So
Isn't that cool for you to see how you have played a role in
Yep.
introducing these new opportunities to these young people
Yep.
at an age earlier than you?
heck yeah.
I
And
think it's amazing.
she is, like everyone always says, when are you going to, because I'm 57 and I keep trying to retire. I keep trying to get out of the seat and let someone else take my ride. Well, she's got my seat. Now we just have to find someone to take her seat.
Yeah.
You know, so I can step out and I
I
can
agree.
sit back and
I
smell the
get that.
roses. So I'm ready. I'm ready to hop out of the car. I'm ready to be owner and kind of sit back and look at what we've created. And I'm ready to try so many new ideas. Like being in the car, as much as I love going down the track and as much as I love hitting 280, pulling those parachutes, having my eyeballs go in and out, and just having that and feeling the crowd and watching the little girls come up to me and high-fiving me, and guys. You know, last weekend, it kind of puts things in perspective. Sometimes you forget how cool what you do is
Yeah.
in other people's eyes. And so we had this young guy, he's 18 years old, and he won a crew member of the day for the racing. And so we put him on my team, and he was sitting out there watching other jets run before us, and he's like, do you know this is happening? Like, this is happening right now. And he was so infectious, and it made me love my sport again even more, because I said, I think we take for granted living in a beautiful place in paradise. We take for granted being able to get up and do what we love to do.
We do.
I mean, you've found a way to make your love and your passion your work, and you still have a love for it. So do I. I mean,
Yeah.
we're two in the same. Every day we have to get up and we have to hustle to make it happen.
We started this conversation before we actually fired the cameras up, and we were just talking about what a blessing it is to just have that clean canvas every day.
Yep.
And, you know, as we said, there's a world of opportunity that we haven't discovered for ourselves yet.
Yep.
And for every ounce of it's hard and uncertain, there's just this excitement about the unknown. And I think that's what I feel like we're like modern day explorers with
Yep.
our craft, you know?
Yep. And you can choose the destination. You can choose where your finish line is. You can choose where you want to go with your job. Like if you just want to be medium and ordinary and normal, then you could go out and you could just shoot videos for anybody or anything and, you know, be boring. And sometimes you got to do that to pay the bills, and that's okay. You know, some days I have to go out and I have to do product placements for the bills,
Yep.
you know, because that's what I have to do and that pays the bills. But other days, you get to say, I'm going to create a podcast, or I'm going to go out and I'm going to go out to these schools and I'm going to talk to them about careers in motorsports, or I'm going to do this. And so, you know, like 10% of my job is racing the cars.
Yeah.
You know, 10% of your job is doing, you know, whatever. But the rest of it, that's what you choose to make it.
Yeah, and it took me a long time to realize that, just because like you can find yourself in weird places when you're growing. It comes quick. It's a lot of learning. It's a lot of stress, and you kind of have to like regroup with yourself after the ball gets rolling. So
Yep.
yeah, I had tunnel vision for a long time, and I was super stoked. But getting older and reflecting and having kids and
Mouths to feed, and you have employees that count on you for
Yeah.
a paycheck. That's scary.
It is, and I remember that fear of like kind of jumping into that. But now where we are, it was the best risk I ever took,
Yep.
and I have a team that I don't know how I found them or what I would do without them,
Yep.
but it's part of the process, you know, and taking that risk.
And how do you see? This is where I'm at, where I can find team members, but you have to convince them to come along for the ride.
Yeah.
And the ride is going to be bumpy, and I always tell them, you know what? Listen, when we're poor, I'll eat peanut butter and jelly with you, and when we're rich, we'll have steak and lobster. We'll probably not lobster. We might have chicken and steak. How's
There you
that?
go.
Chicken and shrimp, or steak and shrimp. But it's like
You ride together.
we ride together, and they know that I'm in it, and I'm in the trenches. So I still drive my rig to and from the races. I still set the awning up. I'm still in the middle of everything, because the minute I stop, that's when they look at me and say, okay, where are we going?
Where do we? Yeah, and I agree with that. And until you have the pieces aligned to, because you can't just have a captain, you got to have the whole situation in place. And I think it's admirable that you want to do it the right way, not just for yourself and your brand, but for the people that believe in you and that you're setting them up for success.
So I have many movie quotes, because there's so many movies out there, because we travel a lot just like you do. And so when you're on an airplane or you're flying or you're in hotels, you're just trying to find something. So one of my favorite movies is The Incredibles, because I'm sure now that you have a little one, I don't know if you've watched that one yet.
I love that movie.
Okay, so Mr. Incredible's pulling into his house, and there's this little kid on the big wheel, and he's going, "What are you looking at, kid?" He goes, "For you to do something incredible."
Yep.
And so there's times when all hell's breaking loose, when everything's going wrong and engines are blowing up and cars are crashing and, cars won't start or things aren't going together, and they're just looking for you to right the ship.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what are you looking at? Well, my husband's Mr. Incredible and I'm Mrs. Incredible. I don't stretch like she does, but, I think that that's just really important, because you got to have someone that just stands up and takes the punches and keeps hitting.
Yeah, and I've always loved the term fearless leader, and I love my team. I need my team, but I take pride in going into those situations knowing they're probably going to suck. But you know what I mean? It's like it's empowering to be that person for your people, and kind of on the leadership route, leading into this, before you had this big team and through that journey, what were some of your highs? What were those big moments and accolades? Because I know that you have become a world champion and had some incredible moments. We'll talk about the low after, but let's talk about how this dream brought you to some pretty amazing places.
I think it's always like going back to these races and watching these people that you've seen, that seen you along your whole journey, watch you along the way, and still not forgetting who you are and where you came from. So we're going to be going back to one of my home tracks in Michigan, and there's this girl, Carly, that I've known since she was 7 years old, and she's 20 now, you know what I mean? And she just remembers and has every picture, and like a little girl last weekend said, I have a whole picture album of you, and those are my highs. I mean, it's just that you've met something that, as you get older, you always want to say, what is your legacy? And, what are you going to leave behind? And I want to leave this place better than when I had it. That, of course, that's what everyone does. But I want to be inspiring. I want to go out there and I want to make the most of every day. And I always tell Josette when she walks in here, I said, look left and look right. What are you going to do to deserve this position today? Because, it's so easy to bitch and moan and sit here and say, oh, this is hard, I don't want to do it. Or, my shoulders hurt last weekend because we only put 2 tapes on the parachute and had to hit them hard because it was a short shutdown. I'm like, dang, I'm getting too old for this. My neck hurts. And, you can sit here and do that. And I'm thinking, do you know how many people would, literally give everything to be in my spot?
We get complacent.
Yeah.
And I think one of the hardest things, and it's a weird thing to say is hard, but when you are at the peak, and you're pushing that limit, and you're in that upper pack, you are intoxicated with these incredible opportunities, and it kind of numbs you a bit, and it can make it to where you're unknowingly, I don't want to call it selfish, but you're just in it, and it's almost lost its luster. But what's really amazing is that you can change that. You can kind of pull your values from different places, which changes over time. And so I found this phase where I just was doing. And I was having fun, but now it's different. It's with purpose. And again, I think getting older, having kids, bringing these people in under you that rely on you, it can help you reset those sights for your passion.
But I've also gotten a little bit more protective of who's in my inner circle, because I've made bad decisions. I brought people in my inner circle that have literally been like a cancer that's been eating it from the inside out. And I've learned from my mistakes to cut that cancer out very quickly, because a Debbie Downer in your industry, and everyone's going, oh my gosh, they just suck. They take the money. What are they doing for us? And just complaining. I'm like, listen, if you don't have something positive to say, go away. If
For
you
sure.
don't want to get on, if you don't want to get in and roll your sleeves up, I get that we're on an 18-hour day. I'm still digging. And he goes, yeah, but you're making all the money. I go, am I? Am I really? You come and you wear the throne. You sit on the throne and you wear the crown and you pay the bills and you have all these responsibilities.
For sure.
And see what you take. And yes, maybe I make some money. And trust me, I am comfortable. I have everything that I need. I have a roof over my head. I have 2 pugs in my office that I'm so happy with. I have a great husband, an awesome son, and I got a girl who is going to blaze my trail when I'm gone. So.
And you got a dream in your back pocket still.
Yep.
And you've been doing this for all these years,
Yep.
and your dream is still on fire. And I think that's really cool. And, going back to the Space Coast, it is so cool to have people like you here. You're such a great representative of the area. And it's just very cool how you settled in, and it just seems so perfect.
Yep.
The way you nuzzled in with FIT,
Yep.
and you're working with these kids, and the Space Coast in general is just blowing up, and you kind of just like nuzzled in at the perfect time.
It was so funny because we have a new president at Florida Tech, Dr. Niccolo, and he is an awesome, awesome guy. Like, he is out there with all the kids. I've never seen a president just really take to something so fast and so quickly, and so it is so beloved already. But it's so funny because our contract was coming up, and it's like, oh, I got to eat, got to do this, and I just walked in and we just said, you love us, let's just do this. And he goes, absolutely. And he's like, why wouldn't we have this pairing together? So we're here for the next 5 years at least, and more and more and more, because now we've just invested so much more money and time and company and infrastructure here. And so it's like, I'm like, you love us. And he goes, yes, I do. And
well,
it was cool.
It's the passion.
Yep.
And we were talking this morning about people mistake confidence a lot.
Oh yeah.
And I heard you say something earlier, and it reminded me of people want advice.
Mm-hmm.
How do I start? Where do I? And you have to just do. And like you said, she needed to just walk in the door, right?
Yep.
And it's terrible advice because someone wants you to give them this really nice blueprinted map.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. You have to be the sailor standing on the beach with like a foggy ocean, and you have to just go.
Yep.
And as scary as that sounds, I think one of my biggest highs is just movement and seeing what comes from it.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Movement is life. When you stand still for too long and you just tread water, you're not getting anywhere. There was the Lone Survivor movie with Mark Wahlberg. I love that movie because he always kept moving. If he wanted to survive, you have to move. Whether you move forward, back, side to side, or whatever, sometimes you have to retreat and you have to go back and say, well, that sucked. That was the worst idea ever. I just lost how much money?
And then you pick another path.
You pick another path. And you learn from that, and I think you grow from that. So, we've done that with people. We've done that with cars. We've had bad designs where I've been up, I hit a wall at 280, and I'm like, well, that sucked. Let's not do that one again.
And I bet when you look back, your losses or those lows, you don't look at them like that.
No.
They are
Yep.
welded into the
Yep.
positive, the lows, and they become your journey. They become who you are.
Yep.
And on that note, that is what the whole trust the process concept is about. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about your accident particularly, because
Yep.
we're standing here setting the podcast up, and Jay's like, "Oh my God, look at that! She crashed her car." I was like,
Many
yeah.
times,
I was
many
like, yeah.
times.
So talk to me about that. Tell me about these crashes and how they impacted you and how you were able to still believe in yourself.
It's more about, everyone says, was it hard to get back in the car? And I said, no, it wasn't, because literally that's how we put food on the table. We race to eat, okay? So this is how we make our living. And so I was the sole race car driver, so I had to get back in the car. I was never afraid, but it was like I looked in the mirror and I'm like, what did you do to yourself?
So what did you do? What was the incident itself?
It was in Columbus, Ohio, the big one. I've had many different incidences, some small, some big, some, in between. But the big one that I hit the wall at 280, that really hurt me. And it was just me not listening. When you don't have situational awareness and you're just so into it and you're head down, you're not head up.
Oh.
And there was so many signs that I just didn't listen to, and I'm so much smarter now. There was a terrible crosswind. We were trying to put our awning up. Easy ups were flipping around. It was a really bad crosswind. This car had been telling me it was misbehaving every single time I went down the track. and I wasn't vocalizing that to Chris correctly. And so, you know, he wasn't being proactive because I wasn't telling him. And I was like, well, I can figure this out. I can figure it out. I couldn't until I couldn't. A crosswind picked me up at about 1,200 feet. My front end came up, and I nosed over and directly into the wall at 280.
Were you able to process it as it happened?
I knew exactly everything that happened. Noise went away, but I couldn't hear anything, but I saw everything. I saw the husband, and it always choked me up.
Did you feel the lift?
Oh, I felt it, and I was like, oh, crap. And I'm like, this is going to hurt. And, you know, then I was just along for the ride because there was nothing you were going to do. All 4 tires were off the ground. The whole car was off the ground.
What can you do? What kind of preparations or training do you
Nothing.
do?
You're supposed to let go of the steering wheel, but I did not. You know, I'm like, you know, I was still trying to drive the car, you know, trying to throw switches.
So assuming at that speeds, there is no right way up. You
just hang on and just, you're supposed to like put your hands up on you to where you don't hurt your wrists or fingers or anything like that.
There's video footage of the incident, right?
Yep. Yeah, we just go, ooh.
You get in this terrible accident. I'll have to plug in a link here. And what actually happens? The car is probably destroyed.
Car's destroyed. And I just remember the husband coming up, and he is an aerospace professional. So he's been in the aviation industry for many, many years. And so they teach them, you know, to deal with the situation, just like a fireman or a policeman. It doesn't matter if it's someone that you love or anything. Look at the situation. So he pulled up. I was on fire. He's like, get the fire out. You know what I mean? There needed to be someone in charge, and that just happened to be him.
Yeah.
He never looked in the driver's compartment. He didn't know what I was. He didn't know anything that was happening. I was on my side on fire. He's like, get the fire out. He goes, fire's out. He said, okay, let's flip her over in 3, 2, 1. And then finally I felt his hand on me, and that was the first thing. And so
you stayed conscious through the whole incident?
I stayed conscious through the whole time.
Wow.
I lost finally I could hear things, like when the car flipped back over, I got unmuffled, and then I did the whole Ricky Bobby thing. I'm like trying to get out of the car. I was running around the track. I was everything. I had a broken ankle, kneecap that was knocked off. I had broken ribs. I had many different things that were going on, but nobody could catch me. I mean, I was fast. I was like moving. And so
you literally
jumped out of the car.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, they had to chase me down. The EMS guys, the ambulance people.
Was it just adrenaline and you're just like,
I told everyone I was okay.
You probably weren't even feeling the pain, were you?
Oh no, not at all. I didn't feel the pain till probably 3 days after. And so like Chris took me to the hospital. They had a helicopter coming, life support. I'm like, turn that thing around. I can't afford that. Do you know how much that costs? I'm a race car driver.
Send it back.
I'm okay. I'm walking, talking, and then the ambulance wanted to take me, and I'm like, no. So Chris got me in the car, took me to the hospital, and I'm like very calmly told him I hit a wall at 280. Here's my helmet. And I don't think they believed me. And I said, but I'm okay.
That's crazy. A Florida man driving to the hospital on a little shark bite's one thing, but to like get your husband to pull you up to the hospital after the 300-mile almost rocket car crash is nuts.
I think they just thought that we were like, okay, you know, they're just not right. But, you know, we went back, and I just kept telling Chris I was okay. I didn't tell him that the headaches had begun, and that the vision was starting to go, and that the memory was going, and that the words were getting jumbled.
Yeah.
Until finally, I literally lost my vision. I went blind. And I'm like crawling to the shop going, Chris, I can't see. He picked me up. It was a week later.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he took me to the hospital. They put me in, did a CAT scan, and said, holy crap. And so I immediately went into ICU. They put me into a medically induced coma, and they waited for my brain to quit swelling. Couldn't do that. So they did a subdural hematoma. They did a craniotomy where they cut 2 big holes in my head, took the skull out, allowed the brain to unswell, and gave me time. I was in the hospital for, I think, 2.5 weeks, but I thought it was a day.
Wow.
Yeah. And then came home, and I told the doctor, I go, I'm okay. Like after, you know, I had shaved my head. I'm like, I'm okay. And I had staples in my head. And I told everyone I was okay.
How old would that have made you for that incident?
I was 2011, so I was in my early 40s.
So you were a good 5-6 years at least into your professional journey.
Yep.
And, you know, coming out of that, you're healed. Where are you mentally, you know, how are you leaning into this process and looking forward?
Well, I was more pissed at myself because it's like you didn't listen. You know, I knew the car was misbehaving, so it wasn't that I didn't trust the car. I didn't trust myself to tell him about the car. But we crawled before we walked, before we run. We got me back in the car pretty quick, so I was back in the car. This happened in August. In fact, it was a year ago this weekend.
Wow.
No, since 2011, this weekend is when it happened. And then I was back driving again the first weekend of December.
Wow.
I started racing again then because, you know, I said I got to get in there sometime. And it was a while, and I think Chris still to this day, because unfortunately him and my son have seen me in all these different things. I've broken a tailbone, I've broken fingers, wrists, ankles. I've broken, because you have things that happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to happen. It's not if, it's when.
Well, you're a tough cookie.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like passion is the gnarliest jet fuel in the world.
Yep.
I've said recently that I feel not bad, but like it is tough to do something without passion. It'll help you wear things on the head, but moving forward to recent years, you had a way different incident.
We did.
With a way different outcome.
Yep.
And I would love to just not only hear you kind of explain what happened, but I know that had to have been a completely different process for you to heal and get through.
And I'm not healed, and nor will I ever be healed from that. Unfortunately, back in 2019, we had grown our team to where we'd started bringing other drivers in. And the scary part is I'm willing to accept the risk for me getting in the car. But when you're putting people in the car and racing for you, it makes it much harder. And so Kat Muller was this 18-year-old girl that wanted to drive jet cars. Her dad wanted her to drive jet cars. They came over. She had seen me race for years and years. We put her in the car and we gave her a shot. And she had raced for us, for quite a few years. And unfortunately, one day just wasn't her day. We were at Sebring, and she was only supposed to make a short, just little, burn it and shut it down, because it was on the straightaway. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned, and it just didn't end in a good way. Kat passed away that day at the racetrack. I just remember that I feel empty. I think about that girl every single day. I think about and everyone says, oh, she passed away doing what she loved and all that. Nobody wants to pass away no matter what. I mean, I'm happy. I tell people, like, me, if you're sitting here, I'm going to go racing next weekend. If for some reason I'm not, that I live life on fire, and that I've achieved and checked every box. You have to do that before you get in a car like this. You have to know. I tell everyone, when you get in the car and you take the green, you're taking your life in your hands. You have to know that you're doing everything right. You take care of you. Go until it's not fun anymore. Shut the car off wherever you don't want to. And unfortunately, I just think that she got fogged over, didn't know where she was at on the track, and hit some debris, and that was that. And you sit here and you say, how do I get back in the car? Well, I can get in the car, but how do I ever trust someone else to get in the car if I can't lose anyone else? Like that, literally, she was my race daughter. I have a son, but Kat was my race daughter. She counted on me. She looked at me. I was one of the last people that she saw. And it's just like, dang, and it hurts. It hurts to this day. It hurts for her family. I can't even imagine the pain, because, as much as she was my race daughter, she was their daughter. She was their sister. She was their fiance. She was their friend. She was their everything. I feel it to my core. But I had to put up a wall. I had to just say, okay, you got to get up. You got to keep walking. You got to get, we got to get the car in the trailer, had to get Kat taken care of, had to get to the funeral, had to get to this, had to talk to all the fans, had to talk to all the people.
And I'm sure that immediate number of things that needed to be done while you're processing this pain was I know that had to have been really hard.
It didn't hit me until, I'm going to say, probably about 6 months after. And then it just, you sit here and you think about it. And I love when people come up and share stories about Kat and, that she inspired them to do things. And I think about all the goofy things that kid did. I remember her and I rolling down a hill in Michigan, and I remember her doing so many things. And I remember her racing down the track with me and pulling the parachutes at the same time. And I remember that girl lived to race. I mean, she said, because race car. And so I know that that's not how she would have wanted to go out. But I also know that is life. And, as much as you think we have control, sometimes God has a different plan. Sometimes things just happen the way they do. And there was this, again, me with my movies, it was Ford versus Ferrari. And he said, sometimes people just don't get out of the car. And you just know this. And that is what he said. And sometimes people just don't get out of the car. And unfortunately, I have another picture in my office where I was in line, and there was a guy racing a Jet Funny car right in front of me, and his son was helping push my son and my car with my son. And there's a picture of these two little boys just so happy. Little did they know, 5 minutes later, that little boy's dad died in a race car accident. And I'm like, if you would have known that, to go back, and I said, he had no cares in his whole world at that moment, and 5 minutes later, his life just totally changed. And I said, that is a wake-up call. And, unfortunately, doing what we do, you have to understand it's not if, it's when.
Yeah.
And so I look at Josette, and I tell her, and all of the drivers that I've ever trained, you just never know. And if you can't accept that risk, then I totally understand and I appreciate it. We actually lost a driver after that. She just couldn't get back in the car. And that was okay. I don't begrudge that,
So one of your other girls on your team,
She left.
she left?
Yeah.
I think that's respectable.
Yep.
Yep. And I think it goes into what you were saying, which is you need to listen to yourself.
Yep.
And there is no right, there is no wrong.
Nope.
It's hard to differentiate what you're feeling, but you have to listen to yourself.
Yep. And, I don't want to die doing this. I want to live doing this.
Yeah.
And so there's a difference. If you're always sitting here planning the end and the demise and all that, I don't want to think about dying. I want to think about living. I want to think about going out there and screaming as loud as I can. I want to think about going as fast as I can. I want to think about just doing as big and living as big a life as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Dwayne, one of my other drivers, he always said, if you're going to hit a note, even if it's a wrong one, hit it loud.
Yeah.
Don't ever be quiet.
I like that. And it's I'm glad we talked about this, because a lot of the subject matter we go over is, more of just the ebb and flow of life, the daily
Yep.
stuff. But I think we can all vouch that we're given these key moments that are unsolvable
Yep.
when they occur. That is where we lean in on faith. That is where we have to kind of ask ourselves, what does trusting the process look like for me right now? Because it's very easy to reflect. It's very easy to tell someone else what they should do.
Yep.
But to be in the moment when your whole world is crashing,
Yep.
and you have this entire world, your world, on your back in the middle of it, it's important because it plays out to your end story,
Yep.
and it's incredible the way that you've processed it and have continued to love your sport.
Yep.
But to, like you said a few things that, this didn't just happen and come and go. This changed who you were.
Oh.
This changed how you do things.
My core. There's not a time where I don't get in the car and I don't think about her. There's not a time where I don't think about this situation. I race my car totally differently now.
I was going to ask, is there anything that you guys do differently?
Not
and
with
I know
the car.
your crash.
Yep.
You had a completely different scenario than
Yep.
Kat's crash.
Yep.
You knew that, then we don't necessarily know, but you had seen these things. It sounds like she maybe just had gotten caught in a little bit of a fog,
Yep.
and a couple of those situations came together. And it's kind of like space flight. There's a million ways it can go wrong, and one way it can go right.
And that's, she just looked, and I wasn't the driver in the seat. So I wouldn't, when you're the pilot in command, when you're the driver in the seat, you're the one who has the steering wheel. So as much as you want to say what happened, nobody knows what happened. Nobody knows what was going through their head. Nobody knows. And it's like all of these things. Why didn't you do this? And it's so easy to look back and say, why didn't you? But in the middle of it, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And you're never going to know because you're not in her head. You're not in that situation. And would have I handled it? I said, if I could have taken her out and put myself in, I would have a million times over, but can't do it.
No, and this was
19.
19.
Mm-hmm.
So, you just renewed this contract here for another 5 years.
Yep.
You and your team have continued to grow.
Yep.
Continued to build. What did you do from there, walking into COVID?
Yeah, that was a flipping mess.
You
We
guys
had to
went
because we race for a living. We are paid to be in front
I
of
filmed
people.
with you
Yeah.
basically the last weekend of anything.
Yep.
Because Festival of Fire was like, it might
March
happen.
2020. That was it.
That was it. That was the
Yeah.
last event.
Yep.
So I see you at Festival of Fire. Fantastic event.
Yep.
Check it out on YouTube. It's great. Going back to your impact on kids, as much as bad things happen, we look at the whole picture, and
Yep.
I vividly remember watching you at the autograph table,
Yep.
watching these little girls, and I love to be as observant as possible and step away from my little world. And I just remember sitting there watching you, and I know you've probably seen it, but that look on those faces,
Oh, I love it.
you're bigger than life.
Yep.
You're like a rock star.
Yep.
Is that not the coolest thing
It
in the
is
world?
the coolest thing, but it's a lot of pressure because it's like you have to be the Elaine Larsen. So you have to wake up and you're like, people are counting on you. And so people follow me on my social media. And, I like to post the good, the bad, the ugly. It's not always the best day of my life. It's
Yeah.
not always the worst day of my life. Sometimes it's just a day. You know what I mean? But some days they just want to look at something and just be inspired. And so, that's what
They
I
just
try
wanna
to
see
do.
something incredible.
They do. They just want to, they just want to make sure. And they're like, oh, you go, Elaine. And they just they're like, the world is where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Elaine's out there doing what she needs to do. And so I want to keep doing that for as long as possible. But COVID kind of set us back.
Yes, you leave that event, great event.
Yeah.
What the heck do you do?
So we pivoted really quick. So we have I have a 501c3, Blazing Trails nonprofit. And so we do a lot of educational outreach. So what we started doing is creating videos because we knew schools were going to have to go virtual. So we started creating content for the schools to be able to take and put in there. So we do the science behind a jet dragster, the science behind a jet engine, the science behind, and so literally hundreds of thousands of kids throughout the world have downloaded some of our content, which is
Wow.
really cool. So we pivoted very quick. I had Winston, the astronaut, come in here, and we did a quick interview, and the kids got to Skype in and Teams in and ask him questions. And, we just very quickly said, okay, well, we can't be out on the track, but how about you come into my world, into
Yeah.
this shop, and you can ask me questions about in the shop. So the kids would be at home, and they would ask me all kinds of questions. Can you tell me about your jet engine? I was like, yeah. So we put the camera in the jet engine, and Chris would tell them all about it.
That's
and
so
it
cool.
got to be really cool and personal. And it was a way for us to meet kids and people that are all across the world. And it was a great experience. So we actually thrived during COVID.
I have a very biased opinion on COVID that I would say some people share, but not everybody. It was the best year that
Oh,
ever
yeah.
happened to us.
Yep.
Because whenever had you or any other company that was kind of like running full time had the chance to kind of sit and regroup.
Yep.
And think about what are we going to do? Where can we get better? So the world shuts off. We lose a whole bunch of money. Everything goes. And it was weird because I'm a worrier.
Mm-hmm.
Something crazy happened to me. I turned into this, well, we're all screwed.
Yeah.
And it gave me this, I know it sounds terrible, but it was like, we're all in this arc together.
Yep.
So I hit this creative peak. I got on TikTok and started seeing these cool videos, and then
Yep.
I bought a water tank and I started doing studio stuff and opening new services, and then it really made me lean out of my comfort zone,
Yep.
out of the places that we made money.
Yep.
And when things came back, all this new things that we did came with us.
Yep.
And it was a beautiful blessing. And then JD's been with me for 4 years now since COVID, and he was brought into my house by a local surfer, and I'm like, who's this stranger? I could hear another voice. I come down as this young kid. He's like, my buddy goes like, yeah, I found this guy on the beach. He's a video guy. You need more people. Fast forward 4 years, and he's my number 2.
There you go.
He came with a plus one named Gavin, and I had both of them for about 3 years. And what happened is when COVID hit, I called all my people, and my people are contractors, and I say, hey, just a heads up. If it comes through this door, I'm doing it. I gotta, batten down the hatches and let everybody know that I'm doing all the work because I got to keep the money. Well, then this 18-year-old kid rolls into my house, and I've got not a lot going on, but I'm also not burning any money. I was like, maybe you guys want to hang out for the summer, and I'll throw you a little bit of money, and you can learn. And then they stayed, and
Yep.
then they learned, and they turned into our first salary-based people, which changed our whole dynamic.
Yep.
So then we were like, whoa. If we find the right people, we can change our pricing. We can change how we sell. We can become more affordable. We can be more. So it completely changed our whole company.
100%. And there's people who sat back and just woe is me and didn't do anything and just sat on their couches.
They wasted
but
it.
people like us, we were like, this is the first time the world has stopped for a second and allowed me to think and allowed me to plan and allowed me to get outside of myself. And so just trying to think of new things like we did with our education and you did with that. It's like, why not? Why can't we do this? Why can't we Skype into classrooms and Teams in? And why can't
Yeah.
we, there's no reason why we can't.
And
So
you probably wouldn't have thought that without it.
never would
And
have.
that's a beautiful thing. From the resistance, you are
Yep.
forced to make
Yep.
change. And it's kind of funny that we're talking about this because this morning I was driving, I was looking at my memories, and I saw like a hurricane was coming or something where
Yeah.
we're in Publix. No one hate me for this, but like I love when a hurricane's coming. It ruins your plan.
Oh,
There ain't no work. And as much as there's stress about what's happening, your day-to-day focus is gone. That residual just in and out same time, it's gone.
Yep.
I don't like being sick. But when I got my surgery, which by the way, I had the worst recovery, I got septoplasty. I hated it. It was terrible. But it did something special to me, taking me out of work for a month. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then the mental warfare I had to go through. Oh my gosh. Maybe it was like because I'm a man and I couldn't handle it. But oh my God, it was terrible. But again, like, jokes aside, when you're a person like us that is active and you need that adrenaline, and I couldn't do anything. I could barely breathe. I had to sleep in a recliner.
Yeah.
It was a mental challenge that I'm not gonna lie was pretty difficult for me. My wife was a little bit worried just because I was
Depressed.
I
And,
was depressed, dude.
Yeah.
But that pushed me.
Yep.
And I had to make myself say, look, bro, we can't go outside. We can't do these certain things. So what are we going to do in this house to feel better?
What can you do?
And
saying what
it
you
pushes
can't.
you.
What can you? So when
We always say, why not why?
Yep. When I had my brain injury, I didn't realize I would go in the closet, in the dark closet, turn the lights out because I need to remove all sensory, to let my brain heal. And I just focused on listening to myself breathe. And so that's what I taught myself from that. I learned how to breathe. And sometimes you forget to breathe. You forget to take that oxygen into your brain that you need, And so when I find myself getting really stressed, I'll take myself away, and I know that I just need to put myself in my closet or a room or someplace and just breathe, and I come back out a better person.
It's funny that you say forget to breathe because I'll get headaches sometimes, or I'll get stress. They do box breathing, which is 5 seconds, 5 seconds. So 5 seconds in, 5 second hold, 5 seconds out, 5 second pause, repeat. If you do that for 4 rounds, you freaking change.
Breathe.
It is crazy.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I've gotten really big into leaning in on how I feel and realizing I'm responsible for that and what I'm doing, what I'm saying to myself. Am I breathing? Am I eating? You know what I mean?
Are you eating? I forget to eat sometimes. And if people say that,
I know.
And it's it just seems lately. And so then I just eat junk because it's the first thing. And I'm like, no wonder I feel like crap. What did I put in me?
And I don't know how to want less for myself. I don't know how. No. So I'm 33. I'm young old, as I call it, but I'm in the process of asking myself, how do I need to change how I take care of my body now? Because it is starting to be different.
Oh.
How do I want to have my personal time balanced out a little different? Because my needs are changing.
Yep.
So anyways, I have realized, especially with my baby, there was fat in my days. There were habits that didn't matter.
Yep.
And it came, and so I realized there is only 24 hours. And with the baby, I am going to be doing these certain things for these pretty big parts of the day, right?
Yep.
That other shit's either going to happen because I'm getting up early
Yep.
and I'm prioritizing, or it's not going to happen. And I don't know how to want less.
No.
So this podcast is so important to me. We have had to really work hard to make it a priority, but we're still going to work. We're still going to work out, but we're still going to go surf. We can have fun. We can't just work all the time.
No.
So it is a juggle, but what a beautiful thing to have all those things at the forefront of what you're doing.
You don't realize you just have to take it in and look around. I get it, this podcast. Okay, so you have to do that. Why are you taking it on? What are you making? What is it worth? And the husband always says, "Is it going to make us money?" I'm like, I don't know, but is it gonna feed my soul? It might not feed my belly, but it feeds my soul.
Yeah.
And I think that that's important. We did, because I have pups, and I think dogs are just so addictive and they're so calming, and when you pet them, you just feel happy. So when I decided that everyone should have a little bit of happiness, so I took my pups into a children's hospital, and then I created this little character called Piper's Pals. And so they go around and, they go on racing adventures. So there's Piper the pug, Penny or Perry the pig, Jenny the giraffe, and Pedro the panda. And they go on racing adventures.
I love that.
And so, Chris is like, is that going to make us money? I go, I don't know, but it makes me happy. and happy is sometimes better than money.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but let's be real.
And on that note of like, does it matter? Is it good for you? Is it going to make money? Is it going to work out? We have to have those conversations
Yep.
and be, thinking forward, but also being kind of just like, we're living, right?
Yep.
So I explain to people many times that things that I've done a long time ago grow into these big things. But if I wasn't trying then, it wouldn't have grown into what it is
Yep.
now. And I compare it to being in an airplane and you're
Yep.
just heaving handfuls of seeds out. And then you fly back by 10 years later and you're like, boom, look, there's one. And that's how I feel. So like this podcast, who knows? But what's going to happen, I promise you what's going to happen is something weird's going to happen. Some guy in some place is going to see an episode and connect a weird dot, and a phone's going to ring one day and a thing's going to happen. I've
Something's
seen it a
gonna
million
happen.
times, and I
Yep.
know you had to
Yep.
have seen it.
Yep.
And the cool thing for me is when you have a passion, it starts slow, but the snowball effect is
Yep.
awesome. And once it gets going, you get busy,
Yep.
you get excited. The doubt kind of gets fulfilled with excitement.
Yep.
And you turn into this thing where it's like, I compare it to whiskey, right? I remember as a weird thought, I remember being a kid learning that whiskey has this, I'm like, who the hell has that much time?
Yeah.
If it takes 10 years, then we can't. Well, they did it 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then they did it the next day and the next
Yep.
day. So there is no more worrying about it because they put the time in, they planted the
100%.
seeds early. And that's how I feel once it's rolling. It's addicting.
Well, I planted my seed with Josette, so she better grow. That's all I
Yeah,
have
I
to say.
hear ya.
Is like
The pressure's on, Josette.
I know she's over there
I
lurking in the
looked into the soul.
background.
No, I looked into the soul of the camera. This is
Yeah,
for her. The
that's it.
pressure's on. The time is good. No, it's cool. And isn't it as exciting to feel that you actually have hands
Yeah.
on deck that are
I have
what
found
make you
the
feel
one.
like it's the one?
Yep, I have found the one. She is my soulmate. She's not my mini-me because we literally are the same. We're pigeon-toed the same. We act the same. We're goofy as all get out. I mean, she literally loves jet racing and racing in general as much as what I do. And I didn't think I was ever going to be able to find someone that filled that place.
Yeah.
And so now the next chapter is if she takes my spot, which that's what she's going to do,
Who takes
who's going
hers?
to take her spot?
So, who would take her spot metaphorically?
Oh, I'm glad that you asked.
Yeah. So what would that?
I have a master plan. I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
glad. Yeah.
What is the master plan?
So the master plan is we've tried things, and it's like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting something different to happen. And so I've trained, I think, 11 different drivers, and some of them have been good. Some of them have been total horror stories. Some of them have been, just they bid their time, and that's good. But I want to find the other one.
Yeah.
I want to find Josette. I want her to help me find her person, or maybe not. So we're going to be going out there, and we're going to have who wants to be the next jet car driver, and we're going to put a search out, and we're going to have people come to us and give us their resumes. And we did that before, but I don't think we knew what we wanted. Now we have a clear path to what we want or who we want. Doesn't necessarily have to be a girl.
Yeah.
As much as I love to have girl power in there, seeing that young guy last weekend, thinking, how would you ever do this for a living? I want it to be someone who has a spark. I don't care who it is.
You're looking for that next passionate person.
Yep. And whether they want to drive a jet car, whether they want to crew a jet car, whether they want to build a jet car, whether they want to be a part of my team. I want to who wants to be a part of Larsen Motorsports, and then tell me what part you want to be, and then come on, let's go. So we're going to start a nationwide search, and we're going to have a teaser coming out very soon. And whether it's just on YouTube where people get to meet them and they get to see what it takes to be a jet car driver from the very beginning stages to all the way through where they get in the car for the first time to where they sign a contract and I am out and they are in.
That is epic.
So I'm ready.
Any idea of when this search is going to begin?
I'm hoping 2025.
Yeah?
That's my because I got
All right.
one more year. I got one more year that I'm going to commit being in the car. And it's not that I don't love being in the car. I love it. I think it's awesome.
Do you just feel it?
It's time.
You feel it?
It's time. And I had so
What
much
is it
fun.
that you feel? Because I know it's not that you don't love this or that you're burnt out, no pun intended. I think maybe it has more to do with what you're seeing could come next. Is there like an excitement for that?
Yeah, because I want to take on more of an administrative role, and I can't do that if I'm in the car. Like, I have so it used to be when I was training someone and I'd go down the track, I'd be so focused on them, and I'm like, girl, you got a car too. Focus on your car. Like,
Yeah.
don't focus on what they're doing beside you. I'd be like, she's she's coming along. She's right beside me. She's right beside me. I see her chute. And then my chute's out. And I'm like, wait a minute, you were late on your chute. You didn't pay attention to what was going on in your car. So I have to totally let that go. So
Which
now,
is funny because I feel the same, and it's actually strange because I'm in a very similar place. I'd say I'm a couple years behind where you're at,
Yep.
but I've got some people, and I'm seeing the first positioning happening.
Yep.
I'm seeing the things that I would never be able to not be present for. I don't
no.
have to be there now.
No.
And it's not just me being able to have more time. It's very incredible, and I get filled with pride when I see the people I've put in position do it right.
I want to fly into a race, not like I'm the big papa or whatever, the big queen. I want to fly into a race, and I want to be able to watch what, 22 years of work has done. You know what I mean? I want to be able to sit here and watch the magic, because to me, it's like a symphony, watching everybody move and as a team, and watching, Mark, who's my crew chief, he's been with us for over 4 years. 4 years, the kid's only 25 years old, you know what I mean? 24, 25 years old. 4 years to him is a long time.
For sure.
So he has committed that much time to our company, and, wanting to better it and work towards making this a better place. And so I just want to be able to give that to other people, and not people just in my current circle. I want to spread it out. There's a lot of little junior kids that are out there driving junior dragsters. There's kids that are out there that always thought about having a career in motorsports but doesn't even know what that looks like, whether it's motorsports marketing, whether it's motorsports engineering, designing. There's so many different areas, and whether they get a place on my team or I help them find a place on another person's team, I want to open it up. I want to take the curtain back, and I want to show what the real really looks like. Because everyone sees this Formula One and IndyCar and NASCAR and drag racing, and they think, oh, I know what it takes. But they don't know what it really takes. So we're going to take it down to the, driving the car takes me 5 seconds. All of this other stuff is what you do
Takes
with
decades.
your day. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because people say that about cameras a lot. They want to pay for the one photo you took, not the 10 or 20 years of experience. And same for you. You drive down this track in 10 seconds flat, and everybody's like, well, I could do that, and they have no idea how much you put into it.
Mm-hmm.
And on these vehicles, that is a question I was going to ask: why these vehicles? I know that there's options, but for you, why this over vehicles? And what do you think these vehicles have to offer to people interested in motorsports in general?
I think it's just because jet racing back in the 70s and 80s, they were actually outlawed because they were some of the most dangerous race cars on the planet. So NHRA and IHRA took the rule book, ripped out, jet cars out of them, because first there was rockets, then there was jets, and so many people were getting hurt and killed. They said, we got to get a handle on these cars. Finally, Roger Gustin came back and he said, I want to get these cars back in. This is what I do. This is what I want to do. And this is why they're going to be safer. We're going to have better rules, better regulations, and we're going to run within them. And so they luckily got back in them. But what I like about it is that we come in to a place, and I remember, because I'm so old, but when the circus would come to town, and when the races would come to town, we go to some of these smaller tracks, some of these mom and pop tracks. Some of these big races only go to the big tracks, and the tickets are very expensive, and not everyone can come in. We're going to be out at Orlando Speed World, and their ticket to a night of fire is $25. That's doable for a family. And so they can come out and they can see Josette and myself go 280 miles an hour, and they get to be a part of it. They get to be a part of the pit experience. They get to come up and see me, get an autograph. That's why.
Does the Festival of Fire kind of fall into that category?
It does. And it's for everyone. It's a family event.
It seemed like such a community event,
Mm-hmm.
and there was fun, and there was music and dancers and stuff. But for me, the coolest thing, and again, I was so aware of the little kids while we were there, I was watching them watch you. And a couple of them were anticipating you while you guys were working on some of your things. And it's just so cool that because it's not a huge Daytona 500 event,
100%.
they are 8 feet away from you while you're pushing your vehicle to the track.
And they get to help push sometimes. I'm like, come on, get in.
That's so
cool.
cool.
And so I think that's what I like about it.
So you think that you can be a little more personable?
1,000,000%. It's be careful what you ask for. You just might get it.
Yeah.
As much as I want to be bigger so that more eyes can be on us, I'm afraid that if we get bigger, that we'll lose who we are. And I love who I am. I love that I'm just a common person that goes to the grocery store, that, drives her truck and trailer. You should see all the people when like my trailer has my face on it, and then they pull up, they're like, that is so cool, watching two girls drive their rigs to the racetrack.
No doubt. And what an inspiration you are to women everywhere, to the motorsports industry, to everything that you do. And locally, all these kids, it's so cool. Yep. I think it's amazing that the Space Coast supports you.
Oh, 1,000,000%.
And I love that you are a representative and a face here. Has that been cool for you? Has that been fun for you?
I am
doing the Space Coast thing.
Obsessed with the Space Coast. I can't ever imagine this is home. You know what I mean? We moved from Michigan. We moved from Haines City to Daytona to here. This is home. Yeah. And like when I go to the grocery store, people go, "Hey, Elaine, did you win the race last weekend?" I go, "Yeah, I tried really hard. Josette kicked my butt."
Is that not the coolest thing?
It is the coolest thing.
And I swear, you are so much more alike than I ever realized. Hearing you speak about how like you want more, but you don't want too much.
Yep.
Me and my wife are very blessed to have this really supportive community. And, there's people out there that have 100 million followers, but when you think about the things they post and the people that follow them, they're just there to watch and observe. They don't love them. They don't care about them.
Nope.
You could find a couch to sleep on tonight in a second if
Yep.
you had a real emergency.
Yep.
From complete strangers.
Yep.
And so when I go to the grocery store and I have people say, "Hey, sorry, I don't want to bother you, but I saw your hurricane video," or the other day a manager's like, "Hey, I saw you guys got some great stuff down at Monster Hole Surfing the other day." That is the coolest thing for me, and it makes me feel good, but I also like that it makes people happy. It makes people
Yep.
want to go do their own thing. Like, what better could we give to people than
Yep.
happiness and inspiration?
Yep. And I feel bad because I can't imagine, and I'm just going to say, like, when you get so big that you have to, like, cut it off and you have to, like, get your inner circle so small.
Wouldn't that suck?
It really would. I'm telling you, because I don't know if I could do it. I'd probably run myself ragged. I see some race car drivers that do it and some celebrities, and it's like, I see myself, I go, listen, I'm just Elaine Larsen. You know what I mean?
God blessed me with the perfect scenario.
Yep.
Because too much would be too much for me.
Yep.
I am a weird person. I love to be looked at, but I don't like to be pressured,
No.
and I love to be known, but I don't love to be too known, so like I
100%.
think about it a lot. I'm like, damn, am I like unknowingly like in the midst of like the perfect equation?
100%.
And I think just being on this crazy ball that we call Earth comes with these third-party pressures, and none of them matter. Oh, especially for us, because like the ones that do matter, that don't matter, it's like, oh, money and stuff. But again, like every time, like, oh, this is gone and that's not. There's an opportunity that's waiting for us. Maybe we're gonna go
Yep.
do some cool new thing. Like right now, we're doing a new show, and it's our show. And the only reason we're doing it is because there's a pause on the other shows we do for other people.
Yep.
So the lack of something created something new.
Yep. I just, you say why jet cars? Because of jet cars. You know what I mean? I found my niche. This is where I fit, and am I the best jet car driver out there? Probably not. There's other people out there who are faster than me, who are quicker than me, that are better than me, and all that kind of stuff. But I do pretty darn good. What I don't excel at in the race car, I totally excel at out of the race car. And so I think that you put the two perfect things. And I think that if you're so concerned about competition and you're so concerned about winning and you're so concerned about all that kind of stuff, it makes you lose some of the other things that you could be concerned with. And, going to the children's hospitals, going to the schools, going to it. And, some of these other jet car guys, Mark Stevens, he's from Colorado. He's like, how do I do this Piper's Pals? I go, here you go. Here's some books. Here's some stuffed animals. Go to the hospital.
Yep.
And I said, go read books to kids.
Go
and
do
he's
it.
like, that's so awesome. And so I'm like, there you go. He goes, how do I get? And I said, just call the hospital and say, I'm a race car driver. I want to bring some books in for the kids. And they'll let you.
And then good things just happen, Like I started doing my motivational speeches on Facebook, and the next thing you know, I'm at schools. The next thing you know, I'm at another school, and then I'm like, well, maybe I should start a podcast. And so it's it's cool. I call it just going down the rabbit hole or following the breadcrumbs. For me, I feel like I'm just like the little kid just following the candy. I don't know if you've ever seen Monsters Inc. where they got Boo following. That's what I feel like, and I love it just because there's it never ends. It just keeps going, and it's exciting.
I feel like Larsen, the husband, had this master plan all along, and I realized that he's the master manipulator, because I never would have gotten in a jet car without him. I never would have gotten in a race car without him. And now my life is so full of adventure. You know what I mean? I just don't know what the next corner is going to be. And when I ask Josette, what does she love best about Larsen Motorsports? She says, no 2 days are ever the same. When you walk in here, You think you know what you're going to do, but you always come up with something else. I'm like, Josette, I have a crazy idea. She goes, let's go. I mean, she is the person, she's my Thelma to my Louise, or my Louise to my Thelma.
Yeah.
That's who she is.
That's how I feel about JD, and it's fun just because, like, just the other day, like, we were talking about some stuff, life, this, that, the other, and I was like, dude, this is fun. I just
Yeah.
looked at, and like, and I've said that a few times lately, and I think it's because, like, I'm realizing that so much is just bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
So much of the fat in life just is absolute bullshit, and it sucks because, like, it's so easy to fall into it.
Yep.
It matters, but it doesn't, but it does, but it doesn't. And so when you really hone in, and I'm like, dude, we are winning. And you spoke on, like, the types of people you've had come and go. Some are just absolute dreamers. Some did good, maybe it didn't work out, and then some were like this detonation. And I was telling JD we had like a detonation a few months back, and it wasn't that big, but because of the details, it bothered me. And then I looked at him like a couple days later. I'm like, dude, I'm so selfish. I was like, look at the 3 people that came out versus the one that didn't. I was like, how
Yeah.
dare I focus on this minuscule blip when the greater picture is
Yep.
this? And again, it's much easier said than done. It's hard to do in the moment.
Yep.
But I just feel, I don't know, I just feel more confident than ever in doing my best and knowing I'm actually doing my best.
Yep.
And just that's it. And
Some
trusting.
some people are around for a day, and maybe that day is just 2 day. It's not for days on end. And so you have to realize that, like, you know, when we were looking, like, who wants to be the next driver, maybe we don't look for someone that sells their soul for years and years and years. Maybe we look for someone who just wants to fill a need, or scratch an itch for a couple years, or for a year, or for whatever. You know, hopefully we're better at smelling them out and trying to get someone who really wants to invest in it. And that's okay if they don't, because that leaves the room for someone else if they're out, and someone else can be in.
And it's part of it, right?
Yep.
It probably helps them and you.
Yep.
JD had come with a best friend. His name was Gavin. Love this kid. And he was with me full time for like 3 years. And then we ended up having to part ways. And then unfortunately, the friendship went with it for a bit, which that sucked. And then very recently, it's just funny when people have the opportunity to revisit and look at things like, oh man, like that didn't really matter, did it?
No.
And now seeing him, he's got a great job, he's doing good, he's
Yep.
still around, and I have so much value for that relationship
Yep.
in its preserved form, and I'm so proud of all my relationships that I've been through. Intimate, friends, failed here,
Yep.
broke, never came back, fixed it. It's so important to look at them in a healthy way.
Yep.
Because they are all who we are, you
Yep.
know? And on that note, just to kind of wrap up, you know, trusting the process, going through this stuff, starting a business, going through COVID with a business, having the things happen that you've gone through with your team, it is very hard. And not everybody is going to handle it the way that you or I could. And even we struggle.
Oh, yeah.
What do you say to these people? Where do you pull from? How do you literally walk into life's hell and have that confidence and trust the process?
Well, you know, you have to first surround yourself with the right people. Someone who's going to, when you falter, you know, that's why team means everything. Whether it's your spouse, whether it's your teammates that you hire, your employees that are around you, and then your friends and family. You know, I don't need anyone to stoke my ego. I just need people to just be there and just sometimes just listen.
So surrounding yourself
with the right
people.
And I think that's more than anything that we've done. First, I surrounded myself with the ultimate person, the husband. You know, some days I love him, some days I just want to strangle him.
That's a big one, though, and
Yep.
not everybody has that. I
Yep.
know life is tough. We can't pick everybody.
Yep.
But I do think it's important for people to understand when you pick a particular passion, you need the right person. It doesn't make them wrong if they're not the right person, but our lifestyles
Yep.
are challenging.
Yep.
And we need someone that can speak into that,
Yeah.
not away from it.
I am challenging every single day. I mean, trust me.
I don't know how my wife
challenge-
deals with
no,
me.
I don't know how my husband. I know.
And last night, I'm like on YouTube looking at a video, and I'm playing it and pausing it and playing it and pausing because I'm trying to look at the keyframes to see how they did this transition. It's like 11, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Trying to see how they did this." And she's like,
Go to
"She's
sleep.
like, "Is your
Go to
brain
sleep."
okay? Like, does it hurt doing that?" And I was like, "No." Sorry, and like, 'cause it's like
Yep.
and it's cool because I have a person that sees the beauty in that and
Yep.
contributes to that, and I think it's so cool that you credit your even being here
with
with
him.
your person.
Yep. Well, and then you also have to be happy with who you are.
So that's
You
what I was
know
going to ask
mean?
is when they're not here,
It's only you.
What does Elaine tell Elaine when shit hits the fan and your back's at the wall and you're feeling all that pressure of life? What do you tell you?
I tell myself to dig deeper. I mean, I am, you know, I look myself in the mirror and I say, dig deeper, girl. You've got this. You've made it this far in life. Keep going, you know. And I'm, believe it or not, okay, so Mennonites don't look themselves in the mirror very often because vanity is not something that you're supposed to do. So for me, I look at myself in the mirror in the morning when I put my hair and my makeup on and all that kind of stuff. Rarely do I ever look in the mirror again for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And so when I look in the mirror, it's not necessarily like a real mirror. I just look at my life and say, name 2 things that you're proud of that you did today, you know, and focus on the things that you did right. Don't dwell on the things that you did wrong. Always keep thinking, what did you do good today? What did you do? What could you improve on? And then dig deeper and make those things right. For me, like eating right, physical working out, and doing things, like I am not centered this morning. I got up and as much as I want to, but I have to take care of myself first before I can take care of anyone else.
Yeah.
So I get up my first thing, and I hate getting up at 5:15 in the morning to go work out, to go run, to go do whatever. But it's my time that I take for myself and that I can just go out there. And so first, the very first thing, it's very selfish, but I take care of me first so that I can take care of others later. And I think that's really important.
I think it's because if you don't, you won't.
I won't.
And then you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yep.
And that kind of what I was talking about. I was like kind of getting stressed because like, dude, I'm working so hard. I'm gonna take care of my baby the right way. Like I'm
Yep.
very blessed to have a lot of time with my wife. And I tell her this a lot. We only know what we know, so it's not fair to say, oh, well, such and such sees their husband this much. But we should be aware we are very blessed, but we want to be blessed. We want that time
Yep.
together. So yeah, like yesterday morning, I got up at 4:45, and I rode my bike from 5:30 to 6:30. And then I was like back at the house, showered, had Starbucks, and I was sitting at my desk before 7. And as much as that wasn't fun, all day I was talking about how great I felt and how I didn't have to stress about making it fit. And I had done it. I had done the deed. I had taken care of myself. And that discipline is tough, but it's important.
Yep. So, I don't know.
Good for you. You're a pusher, and I love it. And I love that, like, age is a mind game, and passion, I really do believe, is one of the secrets to life, to keeping you young. And it's like a fire under your butt. You can't just sit there with that. You know what I mean?
Well, and everyone keeps saying, I thought you were retiring. I thought you were retiring. And I'm going, I'm not retiring yet.
Yeah.
Yet. You know, just because retiring just might mean me getting out of the driver's seat. That doesn't mean that I'm going to be out of Larsen Motorsports.
Oh, for sure. And I've told people that, like, I'm going to soft retire when I'm like, 40, but what that means is I'm going to hold the camera less.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
I'm going to be there.
I know.
And I'm going to be involved for, I'll be 65 and say, excuse me, I need the camera for this shoot. I'm going to do this one. And I think having that in your back pocket, but I've seen a lot of people get defeated by never handing it off, and it kind of ends their journey. Not even their journey, their legacy. So it's very cool that you are excited at the prospect of observing your legacy going on.
Absolutely.
I don't want to say without you, but without you in the driver's seat. You know what I mean?
We're ready to go.
So just last thing, what can we look forward to? Larsen Motorsports, what's on the table? What's the future?
We have an open house coming up because we haven't been open to the public for a little bit because we've been so head down, getting stuff done, grinding. And I said, we've had so many people say, when can we come by? So we're going to have an open house coming up. We've got all of our Florida races coming up. And then, just pretty much grinding and trying to find the next Josette Roach.
I love that.
That's the next thing on the agenda, is going out and trying to find the next person so that I can kind of take a step out and to the side, and so I can allow that. So that's it. Watch out for it, because this is going to be a wild and bumpy ride. Y'all are going to be my entertainment for a while. I'm like, come on, let's see what you got. And, all those little girls and all those guys that have been out there saying, I want my shot, this is your time. Bring it.
Let's see it. That's exciting. And that's not just a normal response about busy events and doing this. You are walking into a transformation of the future of you in Larsen Motorsports, and I can't wait to watch it.
Here we go.
All right, guys. Thank you, Elaine. This was amazing. This is a beautiful facility. I can't wait to see more. I'm going to come back and see you guys again soon. If you guys want to learn more about Elaine, I'll put links in the bio. You can, keep up with her tour, go to these events, and if you feel like maybe you're that next driver, keep an eye, and we'll see you guys next time. You.